What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Playbook Sports Podcast, coming to you guys with the first official free agency predictions here on the channel. These are where me personally, not everybody in the show, we didn't get together for this. This is just where I think a handful of free agents are going to sign. I'm not going to go over contract details, as fun as that is. I'm just going to talk about teams based on fit and need. And we're going to start at the top. We're going to start with the quarterbacks. And I've got two I want to talk about and make predictions for. And right before we jump into discussing these free agents, guys, I also want to just make a real quick point so that you don't all yell at me in the comments. I get half of these guys are going to go back to their original teams, probably on the franchise tag. That's not fun to talk about, so I'm not going to talk about that. Now, they may be franchise tags. There's plenty of guys on this list here that it's like, oh, they're going to get the tag. Oh, that guy's going to get the tag. They haven't gotten the tag as of today. I'm going to talk about them. And I'm going to predict them to go somewhere else because I don't want to predict someone to go home. That's boring. I understand that. You may not like it if you lose a player and you're like, no, we're going to re-sign him. Sorry about it. That's not what this is about. I think that these are players moving on to new teams, so deal with it. First one I'm going to start with is Sam Darnold. Before I even give you guys the team I think he's going to sign with, we need to have a quick conversation about this guy. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he has been his entire NFL career. He has not been a good NFL quarterback. That being said, you guys just all want to ignore what he did this past season for Minnesota when he was finally working within a competent offense with a competent coaching staff. A 66.2% completion percentage, 4,319 yards, 35 touchdowns, and a passer rating of 102.5. That is a fantastic season. If you took out Sam Darnold's name and put in Trevor Lawrence, if you put in Tua's name, if you put in pretty much any quarterback with those stats, and you're like, this is what your quarterback did this year, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's fantastic. That's what Sam Darnold did this year. These were all career best numbers for him. And guys, he's only 27 years old. We, for some reason, and I'm just as guilty of it as everyone else, we seem to think that he's like aged out of the ability to improve as a quarterback. He's younger than Joe Burrow. Look it up. Literally a younger human being than Joe Burrow is, and he's been in the league 4 years longer. I don't think Sam Darnold is some top 5 quarterback, but you absolutely cannot deny the statistics from this season and what he did when he was finally in a somewhat stable place. And also, something like this isn't something abnormal. We've seen this before. You know who else broke out at 28 years old after being completely forgotten about and not even in the NFL? Kurt Warner. And then he goes somewhere where he has a competent coaching staff and he has good weapons around him, like Sam Darnold had this year, and he's in the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying that Sam Darnold is Kurt Warner, but can we give these guys a little bit of time and a little bit of grace to find a situation where they can thrive in instead of just cast them aside after they don't succeed at some successful franchise like the New York Jets or the Carolina Panthers? Are you kidding me? He finally had a year where he was with a coach who knew what he was doing in Kyle Shanahan for a season where he didn't even really play, and then he goes to Minnesota, cheap, comes in to be the starter after J.J. McCarthy goes down and absolutely balls out, has an insane season this year. And then you want to point at what happened to him at the end of the year. I understand that. Struggled against the Rams and the Lions. Those are the only two teams he lost to the whole season. So those are two teams that were really, really good. I understand the Lions game at the end of the year was ugly. I get that. But he won 13 games this year, 13 or 14 games this year, and put up those statistics. An unbelievable season for him. He's going to get paid, guys. He's going to get at least $35, $40 million a year. And I know you don't want to go back to your ex, right? If you break up with somebody, you don't ever want to fall back and backslide into that relationship. But maybe you've matured. Maybe they've changed. Maybe you've changed. And now you're like, you know what? This could work. I'm not saying sign some 5-year deal, but what about a 2 or 3 year deal with the New York Jets, right? Jets, who's your quarterback next year? It's not Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to talk about him next. He's not going to be there. Is it Tyrod Taylor at 35 years old? Is that the game plan here? You have a lot of talent on this team. I'll say that. As a Dolphins fan, I can say the Jets have talent all over the place. Coaching has been an issue for them, but now you've got a new coaching staff in Aaron Glenn and whoever he brings along with him. And you've got players that are going to have to be paid soon, right? You've got Sauce Gardner coming up on a contract, Jermaine Johnson. You've got Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. You've got to decide what you're doing with Devontae Adams. You've got a competent offensive line right now. I don't understand why you don't at least kick the tires on bringing Sam Darnold back. He's a better quarterback than he was when he left. He's not going to break the bank for you, and you have cap space to make this work for a couple of seasons, and you don't have anybody on the roster worth a damn at the position. You just want to throw away one of your last cheap years of your entire team. All of the Jets players right now, their best players, are cheap. They're only going to get more expensive. This is your best chance right now where you can afford to bring in a quarterback to play with these guys. And I'm not saying Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson are as good as Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Not that far off, though. Pretty solid tandem. Pretty good offensive line in New York with a pretty good running back, right? Jets fans, I had to hear about it all offseason. Can you guys not succeed with Sam Darnold? Sam Darnold looked pretty good in Minnesota. Can you not succeed with the Jets? Why not? What's the issue there? And if you can't succeed with Sam Darnold, who can you succeed with? Because he looked damn good this year. I think that they reunite. I think we get a Sam Darnold back to New York to be a Jet once again. Break out those old jerseys, folks. He's coming home. I don't hate it for either side. I think it's a good move. And if he struggles, then you get out from the contract and you draft a quarterback and you move on. I think this is the best of both worlds where he's still young. If he plays great, you've got him 5-10 years. Why not? And if he sucks, okay, it's a 2-year contract. Move along and figure out what you're going to do at the position going forward. I don't hate it. Jets fans, I'm sure you guys hate it, but you've got to think this isn't Sam Darnold from when you cut him. This is a completely different guy. You've got to start thinking like that. Moving on, I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers, former Jets quarterback here. Another kind of fun storyline for me. I think if Aaron Rodgers doesn't retire, there's a couple of spots he could go. The Raiders would be a decent spot. If he wanted to go to a crappy team that doesn't have a chance of winning football games, why not complete the Brett Favre arc, right? Why not go from Green Bay to New York to Minnesota? Play half your games in the Dome. You're playing indoors. And then if you play, NFC North football, some teams are outside. Green Bay's outside, obviously. Would love to get back to Green Bay, I'm sure. And Chicago's outside, but that's 2 games. Otherwise, the Lions are in a dome. The Vikings are in a dome. You play plenty of games indoor and in nice weather, so you'll be fine there. And you'll have all the weapons you could ever want. You saw what Sam Darnold just did with them. You think Aaron Rodgers probably could do something pretty similar with those weapons. And if you're Minnesota and you aren't bringing back Sam Darnold, are you really sure that you want to gamble everything on first-year starter, second-year pro J.J. McCarthy? What if he's not the same guy after his injury? What if he's not the same player? That happens. What if he doesn't look like a first-round pick? It's not like every first-round quarterback pick hits. We see misses every single draft. Every single draft. Why not just bring in Rodgers for the year? Even if it's just to potentially be the backup. If you're like, listen, Aaron, we want you to come in. There's a chance you play. Hopefully you don't have to, and you can just help mentor J.J. McCarthy. We'll give you a decent chunk of change. Or you can go be the starter for Vegas, who's going to be terrible with nobody to throw the football to. Are you sure you want to go be a part of that dumpster fire? I'm not saying it's a great option for Aaron Rodgers, and I don't see him going to San Francisco. I don't see San Francisco bringing him in. So it's either, do you want to play football and maybe be the backup but also have a chance to start here in Minnesota with an unbelievable roster? Or are you more interested in just going and being terrible for the Raiders? I think he'd be more interested in the Vikings. I could see him going there for a single year, maybe 2, with a void year or something in there, and finishing his career as a Viking and just saying, yep, I'm Brett Favre, I get it. Next player I want to talk about here, we've got offensive lineman Trey Smith. Best offensive lineman available in free agency, in my opinion. He is going to have offers from, I think, at least 3 teams that are going to offer to make him the highest paid guard in NFL history. You've got the Tennessee Titans, who desperately need offensive guard help, at least on the right side, which is where he plays, coincidentally. So that'd be pretty helpful. Chicago, who needs interior offensive linemen desperately, and they've got plenty of cap space. And the third team where I'm going to predict him going, sorry Addison, sorry Bears fans, I'm going to say New England Patriots. Patriots have, as we know, more cap space than anybody. They need at least 3, probably 4 starting offensive linemen. And, you could say they've already got their future at quarterback. You've got to protect him. I think this comes down to where does Trey Smith want to play, which rules out Tennessee. Sorry, Titans fans. That rules them out for me. So then it comes down to which coach does he want to play for? Does he want to play for Ben Johnson, who was an awesome offensive coordinator in Detroit, first-time head coach? Or does he want to go play for Mike Vrabel, who's taken a team to the AFC Championship game, who is a well-respected coach in the NFL? I think that it's going to come down to that, and I could see the Patriots getting him to buy in. Drake May had a pretty okay season. The stats wouldn't really back that up, but he showed flashes. Same thing for Caleb Williams. So who do you want to protect? What teams do you want to go to? And you can't really argue weather, crappy weather in both places. So it's going to come down to where does Trey Smith want to go? And I hate to say it because I would much prefer he goes to Chicago instead of New England, because I do not want them to protect Drake May because I don't want him to succeed. Sorry. But I could absolutely get and see the Patriots getting him to buy in and getting Mike Vrabel to get him to buy in to being their starting offensive guard and help lead their offensive line. So that's what I'm going to predict. Trey Smith to the New England Patriots. Next offensive lineman I want to talk about is Drew Dalman, center out of Atlanta. Don't worry, Bears fans. You guys may not have landed the big fish, but you do land the best available center in Drew Dalman. I think there's no way he's not a Chicago Bear. The NFL is showing, like teams around the NFL are showing that having a really solid center is super important. And teams with great centers tend to go pretty far in the playoffs. Feel free to look it up. Kansas City, Philadelphia, Baltimore. Tyler Biadasz in Washington, pretty damn good. I mean, that's 4 of the final 6 teams in the NFL playing this year. So I think the Bears lock down the center of their offensive line and then are able to address the guard position with draft picks or even some cheaper free agents that we won't discuss in this video. I just don't see any way that Drew Dalman is not a Chicago Bear. I think that they need a center. You got to have a good center. He's just as not as important as a quarterback, but probably the most important offensive line position, maybe outside of left tackle. You could argue it. The center's calling out all your protections. He's calling out the blitzes. He's like the quarterback of the offensive line. It's super important, and Drew Dalman has been excellent, and he's going to get a ton of money, and Chicago has the money to spend, so I think that they bring him in to be their starting center. Let's move on to the defensive side of the ball here. I've got a few names I want to talk about. We're going to start with defensive lineman Milton Williams out of Philadelphia, coming off of an awesome season where he really stepped up in Vic Fangio's defense, played unbelievable in the Super Bowl, an unsung hero in the Super Bowl, and he earned himself too much money to stay there, way too much money to stay there. So I've got him jumping to another NFC contender. I'm going to predict that Detroit goes and gets him, trying to shore up their defensive line as best as they can considering how bad the defense was down the stretch. DJ Reader had kind of a down season, and I actually think he's going to be a cap casualty. He's got a cap hit of essentially $13 million this upcoming season. And you've got, like I said, Milton Williams coming off of an amazing Super Bowl performance. He's young. I think Detroit spends their cap money on the defense this year. I think they go all in on trying to get the defense ready to go after seeing what happened this past year. And I could absolutely see Milton Williams being one of their priority additions to that defensive line, and then probably going with an edge rusher in the draft. Speaking of edge rushers, Josh Sweat is the next guy I want to talk about. This one was probably one of the easiest. Well, no, the defensive ones I feel like were all really easy fits for me. But I've got Josh Sweat signing with the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona desperately needs some good pass rushers, and Josh Sweat actually played his best football under current Arizona Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon when he was the defensive coordinator. Arizona's going to have the money to bring him in, can provide some good leadership and attitude for a young defense, and he already knows the system really well. This fit seems too easy for me, and that's really all I have to say about that one. Next guy we want to talk about here is DJ Reed, cornerback from the Jets, as a free agent, and I think he follows his head coach. I think he follows Robert Saleh out to the Bay Area, and he becomes a San Francisco 49er. And unfortunately, I think Charvarius Ward is wanting to leave the Bay Area, and you can't blame him for that. So getting a number one lockdown corner is going to be really important for the 49ers, and new defensive coordinator Robert Saleh, who has all that experience with DJ Reed, played his best ball together, played his best ball underneath Saleh. Would not surprise me at all to see him follow Saleh out there to play. He'd fit perfectly in the defense, give them a really good corner. I think just based on the tape I watched, DJ Reed was better than Sauce Gardner this year. So Jets are really going to try and hang on to him. Will they? I don't know. Next guy I got to talk about, Javon Holland. This one makes me sad because I don't see any way that he's back in Miami. If we didn't bring back Christian Wilkins or Robert Hunt, we're not going to bring back Javon Holland. And I still think he can be a great safety in this league. However, to be fair, he has not been the same guy since Brian Flores / Josh Boyer left. They ran the same defense, and that defense changed when those guys left. So I think he maybe is a little scheme dependent as a safety and what they ask him to do. So where better to go than with your former head coach where you played your best football under? I mean, Javon Holland was going into his second year. People were talking about him as a top 5, top 6 safety in the entire NFL because of how good he looked under Brian Flores' defense. Then you start changing things up, and it just didn't work this year. Just didn't work this year. I think this one makes so much sense, and I understand Vikings are going to try to bring back Bynum as well as one of their safeties. Why not have 2? There's no rule that says you can't have 2 good safeties. If you have 2 excellent safeties in the backside of Brian Flores' defense, I think you're going to be very, very happy with that. So I'm going to predict Javon Holland goes to the Vikings and reunites with his former head coach. Next defensive player I want to talk about, last defensive player I want to talk about here, Asante Samuel Jr. Unfortunately, I think he winds up with the Buffalo Bills. Now, I'm not sure how the Bills are going to pull this off. Limited cap space. However, we do know now that the cap is going to be higher this year than it has been. Obviously, it's taking another huge jump. So that will free up some space, and they could, there's going to be plenty of moves made. If you need cap space, you can always get cap space. That's how it works in the NFL. I think the Bills desperately need to address the cornerback position. Kyer Elam was a huge swing and a miss. Rasul Douglas is a free agent. You've got Christian Benford, and then who? That's it. I think they go and get Asante Samuel Jr., who's flying way under the radar. This guy is a super talented corner, but he thrives in zone coverage, and that is what Sean McDermott likes to run in Buffalo. Asante Samuel Jr. to the Bills makes, again, just a ton of sense to me, and a guy I think that the Bills really need to try to prioritize to help their defense, just play better ball altogether. I saw too many clips of Kyer Elam just completely lost, and you cannot have that especially when you're a defensive head coach. That's just tough to watch. Next guy I want to talk about here, we're jumping back to the offensive side of the ball here. I have two more players I want to talk about. I want to start with Alaric Jackson, left tackle from the Rams. I'm going to give him to a team that I've already got signing one offensive lineman. That's the New England Patriots. I think he goes out to New England. Again, I think the Patriots, they need guys up front, and Vrabel likes to run the ball. That's what he did in Tennessee with a sprinkle of Tannehill here and there. The Patriots have to get some boys up front to block. They've got right now Mike Onwenu, and that is it. That is your only guy you can say, that's our starting lineman. You're like, okay, that's solid. Alaric Jackson's probably the best available tackle when you factor in his age. That's, assuming Stanley stays in Baltimore, of course. Protecting Drake May has to become priority number one for the New England Patriots, along with establishing some facsimile of a run game. And you'll just never know if Drake May's any good unless you offer the proper protection for him. Get a wide receiver in the draft at pick 4. Don't draft an offensive lineman if you're the Patriots. Get a weapon for Drake May to grow with. Build the offensive line through free agency. I also want to talk about Chris Godwin, wide receiver coming out of Tampa Bay. I don't think Tampa Bay re-signs him, especially with how good Jalen McMillan just looked. And obviously Mike Evans is still just getting 1,000 yards, even if it's on the last play of the game and the Saints basically allowed it to happen, which I cannot fathom why you would allow that if you're the Saints. I don't know why you don't quadruple him and say absolutely not, you're not getting it. That's besides the point. Chris Godwin, I don't think there's a team in the NFL that's more needy at the wide receiver position than the Las Vegas Raiders. I think they offer Chris Godwin crazy money. Money that we're like, whoa, how much are they going to pay him? I'm talking like $26 million, maybe $27 million. Closer to T. Higgins than he should be. Closer to the top receivers in the league than probably should be. However, Chris Godwin looked awesome this year. Raiders have plenty of cap space and a super glaring need at wide receiver. You have Brock Bowers to catch passes, and that's it, man. That is it. Please go get somebody good like Chris Godwin. Yes, he's coming off of a brutal ankle dislocation, but that puppy's right back where it needs to be, and he's going to be absolutely ready to ball. I think this would be huge, and whatever you do at the quarterback position, no quarterback is going to succeed with the weapons in Las Vegas right now. Please use your cap space to get a weapon in that room. Thank you. So that's all I've got for today's video on NFL free agency. Again, we didn't go over all of the players that are going to be available this upcoming cycle. There's plenty more. If you guys want to see more like this, make sure you guys hit the like button. Make sure if you're not already subscribed to the channel that you do hit that red subscribe button. Comment down below what you guys think about this. I'm just predicting one team per player. There's obviously 5 teams that could sign each of these players. So if you guys think your team is going to make a bigger push, I want to know about it. It's something I can look into. More than happy to have those conversations in the comments. And if you guys love the NFL draft, this is absolutely the channel for you guys to be subscribed to. As for the next 2 months, that's pretty much all we're going to be talking about. NFL draft content with mock drafts coming out every single week, prospect breakdown videos, and our top 5 to 10 players at each position. You guys are not going to want to miss those videos. We'll see you guys in the next one.